Hello, everyone, and welcome to another stream. It's good to be back. It is. It's nice to see all your beautiful, shining little chat faces. Let me just take a moment to make sure everything is working properly. Hello. Yes, it is. Good to hear. Welcome. Hello and welcome to another lovely, wonderful stream. This is a special one. You're going to want to hang out and stick around because I've got some exciting guests and an exciting announcement. As you've probably already seen, we are announcing a very exciting challenge, a collaboration between EasyEase and Ringling College of Art and Design down yonder in Sarasota, Florida. Today we're going to be answering your questions and talking all about this challenge and how you, if you are eligible, can win $10,000 in scholarship amongst another couple prizes. There's 100 slots in this challenge, but we'll get all into that here in a moment. I am just so excited to introduce you guys to my wonderful guests. I've got a whole heap of them this time. Say hello, everybody. Here we are. Welcome. We got Ed Cheatham, head Puma, big boy on campus. He's all about motion design down there in Florida. We got Amanda, what's it called? An alumni. That's what it's called. Alumni? A wonderful, wonderful motion designer and a very, very talented creative. And we got Josh, a beautiful educator. And I'm so glad we're all joined here by me and Austin as well, the co-founders. Everybody,
ahoy.
Ahoy. If there's anything I missed in your introductions, say so now or forever hold your peace.
I'd like 10 compliments, if possible.
Okay,
if
can we get 10 compliments in the chat for Austin?
No, those are supposed to be from you.
Oh, from me?
Yeah. No, we can do it later. It's fine.
Okay, yeah. It's great to be here.
I'll just introduce myself. Once again, my name is Ed Cheatham. I head up the Department of Motion Design here at Ringling College of Art and Design.
That's true.
So I'm thrilled to work with Noah and Austin on this high school challenge to create an animated movie poster.
We are too.
And we are too.
And everybody in chat is as well.
It's really exciting. I think because this gives high school students an opportunity to really show off their skills. And, there's so many students out there that don't even know that motion design is a career path. They see movement and they think animation, but motion design is its own industry. And so, doing a project like this kind of maybe brings the light to the fact that motion design is a career path, and Ringling College allows you to pursue this as a major. A lot of times people say, well, I want to do animation, but they don't want to do just character animation. They want to do other types and work with design. And this is a perfect major for those students that are interested in bringing design and using design as an element for movement. And so I really like that. So
there you go. And you're mentioning a challenge. Let's talk about the challenge. Let's talk about eligibility. Let's get into the overall details of it. And guys, if you're in chat, you better be asking questions. I'm talking relevant ones. I'm talking irrelevant ones. I'm talking give me more chats, please. Thank you so much. So I'm going to hop onto the EasyEase site and show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. But if you were to give a 10,000-foot view, as they say in the corporate world, Mr. Ed, what would you say we're doing over here on EasyEase?
So what we'd like to do is we'd like students to, we want to give students the opportunity to show off their skills. And the way that we want to do that is giving a design challenge that allows them to show off their design skills and some animation skills. But I think primarily it's to see how well they can communicate an idea. So the project is to create an animated movie poster. So the poster is a vertical poster, just like you would see in one of the theaters. And the title of the movie is going to be My World and Welcome to It. So it's something that each student can really kind of dig in because it's about themselves. So they're the authority of themselves. So they'd be a great resource to create an animated movie poster. So an animated movie poster is, one, well designed. It communicates the name of the movie, but it also kind of gives a hint at what the movie's about, or maybe gives a little bit of mood. So that way, when someone sees this at a theater, they'd look at it and go, I want to see that movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we're going to get into more details about exactly what makes a great movie poster and all that. But real quick, I'm going to run us through a couple of the main details here. This can be about 5 seconds. We're looking at 24 FPS. We're looking at tall, poster, frame and size.
Vertical, 1080 by 1920.
That's right.
As per usual.
We have some prizes that Austin, will you run us through the prizes? Can you see it well? Or
by golly, I can. Don't you worry.
Amazing.
I'll go with the grand prize last. Okay. Build up a little
exciting.
anticipation here. For 2nd through 5th place, that's right, there will be 5 winners of this challenge. 2nd place gets a full tuition scholarship to Ringling College of Art and Design pre-college program that is non-transferable, but that's about a $4,000 value applicable for summer 2025 or 2026 based on the eligible age of 16 to 18 years old during program participation. 2nd through 5th place each get the 1-hour faculty portfolio review or consultation, which I'm sure Ed can talk about in a second, a cash prize, and a motion design t-shirt so that you can show everyone in your life how much you love motion. Cash prizes start at $100 for 5th place and increase by $100 per spot gained up until 2nd place. And our grand prize is a 1-hour faculty portfolio review and consultation, $500 cash prize, motion design t-shirt, and most of all, $10,000 tuition scholarship to Ringling College of Art and Design undergraduate program. That's right. Real scholarship for an amazing program that you can get by winning this challenge on EasyEase. We are very, very excited to be working with Ringling on this and getting some students some really cool, interesting prizes.
So Austin, when you said really cool, did you mean that we were the #1 ranked motion design school in the world? Is that what you were saying?
Ed, actually, that's exactly, they're telling me now from the studio, we're hearing that Ringling was the #1. Say that again. #1?
#1 in the world for 2 years in a row.
In the world.
I know.
Man. Gosh. If y'all aren't getting the scholarship,
right.
Come on, get in.
And we just happened to have an alumni that was Rookie of the Year.
What?
So the best motion design student in the world. She was Rookie. I know, don't you love that? She was Rookie of the Year. What was that? 2022. 2022. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
It's kind of like an Emmy Award winning, right? Because then whenever you say, anyone introduces you, it's like an Emmy Award winning, right? So Rookie of the Year winner. So
that's so exciting. Oh my goodness gracious. Well, shoot, y'all. Anything else you want to say before we get into talking about posters? What makes a good poster? Talking about posters, my favorite thing in the world, posters.
Are there any questions from the chat yet?
So far, we have somebody who wishes they could have invented time travel to go back to being a high schooler so that they could participate. And they feel very happy for any high schoolers that have the opportunity to do this, which I must say, this challenge is open right now and it runs through early January. So if you want to get in, there are 100 slots. They are limited. Be sure to hop in now before those slots fill up. You can sign up at the link in the description or go to easyease.co and look for the challenge with Ringling on there. So be sure to hop in if you haven't already. We've already got 10 people already signed up and they're already off to the races. So hop in while you can.
There's literally only 100 slots. You guys get in quick. A couple quick things when you get in there and join the challenge and you're ready to submit, you have to submit a couple other little pieces of information just to prove that you are, in fact, in the age range, like high school teacher, contact information, what high school you go to, that kind of stuff. But that should not deter you from $10,000 of scholarship, because why would you let that deter you from $10,000 of scholarship?
And don't forget the t-shirt.
And don't forget the
cash prizes
t-shirt. So
and the consultation. Come on.
That's a 20th of people that join if we fill it up completely. So that's really good odds of you to at least win $100. Like, come on.
Josh is the one who's going to be designing that t-shirt.
Shout out Josh.
It's going to be amazing.
So if people put requests for what should go on this t-shirt in the chat. What I'm hearing is, anyway, we have one question from Melissa dos Santos Barros in the chat that says, is the scholarship exclusively for the motion design program or the animation program too? Ed?
Well, that's a great question. It's to any department that you're accepted to. With our computer animation department, there is um, a method where you have to apply early, and they have very limited seats, so you may not get accepted into that department, but you can get accepted into other departments. So this scholarship is not just for motion design. If you find that you're more of an illustrator and you want to explore illustration as your career, you can use this scholarship and go to our illustration department, our graphic design department, our virtual reality department, our creative writing department. We've got game art department. We have many things. So it can be used in any major.
Awesome.
That's a great answer. Y'all, I'm just so dang excited. I'm just so dang excited. I'm darn plumb excited, as they say.
Darn.
That is what they say.
The best motion designs. Oh my gosh. Someone said best motion design studio collabs with the best motion design program. Poggers. Yes, indeed. Can't agree more.
Win-win.
It's a win-win right there. So, all right.
Melissa says thank you.
Yes. No, thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you. So, all right, let's get into it. Let's talk about some posters. And again, if you want to join this, it's in the description. It's all right there, along with some other resources and a little bit more information. So check it out. It's all there. It's all there for you. We made it very easy.
You know, one of the things that students always ask me, it's like, where do I start with something like this, right? How do I start a project like this? What should I be thinking about? And the one thing we always tell students is that you need to do some research. Before you start making things, you have to know your subject, right? You have to be familiar with your subject. That's why I really like this particular challenge, is because each of the student is an expert in his subject, right? Or his or her subject. So I love that, is that you don't have to kind of learn about something. It's all what they know already. So I really like that. But I think it is important that you start by understanding maybe the medium itself, or what is the kind of expected outcome for each of these, projects that I would be, creating. So the first thing I would say when we're talking about where to start is to find some inspiration, right? See what are some excellent examples of those kinds of projects, right? We always want to look at excellent work because that's what we want to aspire to. So we don't just start making things in our own little world. It's great to go out and observe and look at things, do some research. We don't want to copy, but we just want to know what's out there, right? We want to know what people are talking about. If you've never seen a movie poster, how would you know how to design for one? So as we start the project, this is what I would suggest, right? Is to go out and observe, right? Do some research. And we have a little bit of a Google deck here that we can share with you that kind of, I think, is going to be exciting, because I always like it, doing some research and some inspiration on some of the best movie posters designs ever. And so for me, that's such a great way to start this kind of project, because if I know what some great designs are, I can be inspired myself to create a great design. So I see that everybody can see the Google deck, right?
That's right.
Okay. So let's just talk about it. I'll be really quick as we go through these. If you have any questions while we go through, please, enter that in the chat. We can stop. I invite Josh and Amanda to comment on any of these, and all of these actually, to talk about like why you think this is good, why it's not. But I don't know if there's anything that's not good about these. Right? I love all of these. And this will be a little bit of a history lesson. The things that stood the test of time, are just excellent to look at.
You get a free lesson. This is dope.
I know. I know. I feel like I'm in the classroom here. But I think from the very beginning, it all begins with the story, right? You must understand the story and the characters, the theme, the tone before you start your designs. What do you want to say? The fact that you know who you are, you know what your world is, you live in that world, you're intimately knowledgeable of everything that happens in your world. So you're a great resource yourself. But the biggest question I would have is, what do you want to say about it? What do you want to share? Right? Do you want to talk about how your world is chaotic, how it's just magical? Is it wonderful? Are you pulled in many different directions? Is your world creative? Is your world scary? Is your world wide open? I'm not sure. Right? This is where your story can start to take the lead in your design. Right? So, what do I want to communicate to the audience? That's one of the biggest things. It's about your story. I don't know if anybody wants to join in on that or. Okay, I'll just
I
move
agree
on.
with you. I am in full agreement, Ed.
It's all about the story.
It is. So when we look at the goals for this poster, right? So motion design is a client-based industry, and each client has certain goals, what they want to achieve with their product. And so what we have here for a movie poster, there's a reason they exist. And so we have to understand, what is the goal of the client? What do they want, right? So the goal for a movie poster, and I have my other computer screen over here, that's why I'm looking sideways. Right? One of the goals is to grab attention, right? I want people who walk by, turn their head and go, "What the heck is that? I want to see what that is. Oh, that's so cool. Look at this," right? So that's one of the big goals, is I want people to grab attention, because if it's just boring and if it's kind of ordinary, people are going to walk right by. There's so many things to look at, and it's so hard to do something that's going to grab someone's attention. So that's one of the big goals for a movie poster, is I got to get people's attention. Another thing that a movie poster would do is to kind of hint at or imply a story, right? So I'm going to get people to be excited about the content of the movie by hinting at it through imagery, through tone, through animation. I want people to go, "Oh my gosh, that is going to be such an exciting movie," or "That's going to be a very interesting movie." When you think about Gladiator, right? I'm not going to put daisies and fields of trees for a Gladiator movie. I'm going to do something that really, sets the tone for that piece, right? And look at it and go, "Oh, that's going to bring me back to the Roman times." Okay, right? So everything that I do is going to kind of take the viewer into that world. So I'm going to want to create a story. That's why it's important for you to know what that story is, because you want to choose the right elements, the right tone, the right colors, the right composition to help me understand, what is that story going to be about. Another thing, and I kind of hinted at it, is to set the tone and the mood, right? Is this a horror movie? Is this a comedy? Is it a drama? Is it a documentary? Right? I can kind of change a viewer's interpretation just by the way that I compose the frame, the colors that I use, the way that I use a variety of media, or is it photography? Is it stop motion? Right? If I have something that looks like it's a whole bunch of stuffed animals, I'm sure it's maybe not going to be a documentary unless it's about stuffed animal production, right? But figuring out what you want to put in that image to communicate your idea is really important. I want to give the tone, the mood of it. Is this going to be scary? Is it going to be exciting? Is it going to be fun? Is it going to be playful? Because people go to movies because they want to feel a certain way. Maybe they want to be scared for Halloween. Maybe they just need something that's going to make them laugh. I think we all need something that kind of makes us laugh. And so, your movie poster can kind of tease a little bit of that and go, "Oh, that looks funny," or "That looks fun. I want to go there. Let's watch that movie." Right?
I would even recommend thinking about typography as well, because you'll notice across a lot of different genres, especially within posters, there are certain types of fonts that are typically associated with different genres, and thinking about how you could either embrace that or try and break that could be a very interesting way to think about your poster as well.
Yeah, excellent point. And we'll get to that, I guess, a little bit more later, because that's very important. And the last thing, right? Something that's memorable, right? So something can be attention getting, but what's unique about it that people will go, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I've never seen that before. That's one of the hardest things to do is to create something that original, but that's ultimately our aspiration. That's our goal is to make something memorable. And very often things that are memorable are usually the things that are more simple, right? It's not all this complexity because that's hard to kind of interpret, but a simple idea done really well, that's memorable. So,
Right.
when we talk
It's
about a
going to be
poster, it
amazing.
doesn't have to be overly complex, not a bit. It just has to be a simple idea. What's unique about it that people, does that sound good? Any thoughts, Josh or Amanda?
Yeah, go ahead, Amanda.
I think something also to keep in mind with a movie poster is designing everything so the type can breathe. Don't make your type messy. Don't put things over type to make it illegible. Keeping the typography in mind as just like an element of the poster, I think, is part of what makes a very successful movie poster.
We're gonna
Great.
be watching for that.
One thing that I would add is we were actually doing a project like this, going off of movie posters and making a design and an image with the title and the type designed that would convey a message. And what's interesting is what used to be the poster design is what would really promote the poster or the movie, but nowadays it's a tiny little thumbnail on Netflix. And how do you convey that amount of information on something so small, which is interesting. But just to back up what Amanda said too, each typeface, each font has its own personality, like anybody that you meet down the street. And you want it to be, it's the little conveyor of your message more than almost anything else. So you want to consider why you're using the font that you're using, what messages it's sending.
Yeah, bring up a good point, which is judging, which I think we should talk about for a teensy little sec here. It's
Okay.
not just going to be the EasyEase team judging this. It's actually going to be Ringling as well. So every submission will not only be judged by professionals, but you'll actually get feedback. You'll get good, valuable feedback from all the people judging, and that's dang exciting. That's something. If there weren't prizes, that's something that's at least worth submitting for, because you actually get scores from Ringling professors. That is so exciting. That's very cool. So get in there. Again, it's all in the description. Let's keep it rolling. You're telling me we
Okay.
got to have story, we got to have good type, we got to have breathable type, we got to think about our mood and tone and make it all seamlessly fit together. I'm excited about that. Let's keep it rolling.
Okay. So this was, I think, a great simple phrase to help me kind of remember where our focus is, right? 3 principles of poster design: image, the story, and the impact. So understanding what that image conveys in terms of story, and then once again, something memorable that has some impact. So that's really important. Tomasz Opashinsky is an excellent designer, and I have a link in here. We'll give you a link to this deck here so you can look at it as you're on your own, because we're going to go through this hopefully pretty quick. But there's some links on there, and take a look, because once again, inspiration and research is critical to be a successful designer. Okay, so my humble opinion, plus I agree with many people about some of the best posters of all time, right? And you talk to a variety of people, and there's going to be a lot of different selections, but you'll see the majority of these in everyone's top 10, right? Looking at this first one, Vertigo, for me, the thing about this that really works is, one, its simplicity. And you can see on the bottom here, I have like things that make it successful, right? A very minimalist design. It's not all over the board. It's very simple. We got a circular element that brings the eye right to the center of that screen, right? It looks a little, kind of like somebody's falling into that spiral, so it feels like it's a little bit unsettling. The simple use of color, right? So it's not all the different colors. It's very simple, and that really helps create, visual impact. And once again, simplicity is much more memorable than complexity, right? Anybody want to talk about this Saul Bass example here?
Now look at that unique type. Now look at
Well,
it.
I'll say Saul Bass is one of the great designers that we study and love. And even if you don't know him, like as soon as you study graphic design, well, not even if you study graphic design, you know his work because everybody's kind of copied the same look of a super simplified color palette with simple shapes that convey an idea. It's like simplicity overall, and this look of just simple 3 colors, black, white, and bold use of color is Saul Bass.
Cool. Let's move on here. This is one that I think probably everybody is very familiar with. It's become quite a meme. Everyone has tried to replicate this and kind of maybe changed a couple of the elements for their own story. But talk about simplicity and talk about hinting at the movie. I mean, this is not a pleasure cruise, and it's very obvious, right? I mean, just look at the simplicity of the type, and kind of like what Amanda was saying, notice how the type itself is breathable, right? Or there's room around that type. Would you like this type there, Amanda?
Yeah, I think it's great. I also think that something that we necessarily haven't touched on is I don't think you need to draw to make like a good movie poster. Personally, I make a living being a motion designer. I don't know how to draw. I never knew how to draw. I don't have any plans on knowing how to draw. But I think, play to your strengths. Like if you know how to composite photos really well, do so for the poster. If you're a 3D designer, implement your skill set. I think don't limit yourself to just what's traditionally been done just because you can make a poster out of anything.
Exactly.
Great point. Great point.
Ah, classic.
Do you like that one?
I do. It's yellow type pops, especially on those colors,
What do you like most about this one?
Well, color, certainly. But I don't know. They managed to fit a lot of type in, especially compared to some of these other posters, without it necessarily feeling like too much. Because it's set up almost more like a magazine or something. So they're using, while it is a movie poster, they're using tropes and trends from other aspects of media and life and taking them into the movie poster. So rather than just having the standard title at the bottom middle with some of the cast name underneath, they said, what if we had it all on the side like it was a magazine issue or something like that? It's just a really interesting way of being able to adapt other design methods for a different media.
Yeah, it definitely looks like a paperback book from the 1960s or 50s, doesn't it? Yeah,
There's nothing that gets me like just a little bit of subtle overlapping of elements with her shoesies. That gets me all excited. I like it. It's good stuff.
Are you saying details are important?
I'm saying details might be important. I'm saying have an eye for it. They might just make or break it. Think about how your elements can talk to each other. You know what I mean? This one's spooky. If we're talking spooky.
Such a good poster. Such a good poster.
What was that, Amanda?
It's such a good poster. I think, sorry to take the lead on this.
No, please.
Anna, I think this is a great use case for just like, you don't need a lot of colors. Like her eyes matching the color of the type connects the image with the 2D elements. And I think this is a case for like, don't go crazy on color. I think some of the most important posters that we've seen, even in these examples, like with Jaws and the red type, comes with being very selective about how you're choosing to use colors in composition. So I would definitely reference this poster for that.
And did you notice in that moth, there actually is a death head hawk moth that actually has a skull image in it. So they didn't put a skull in there. That's actually the moth itself. Now that's research. I look at that and I think that's very clever. I love that. This is one of my favorites. Just one of my favorites. It's so simple.
It's so
It is.
simple.
It is
I
so
mean,
simple.
there's that seems to be a little through line. Is like you just gotta have a good concept and some solid execution. You don't need the most complex thing in the world. You don't need
Mhm.
a super in-depth illustration. You just need to have a good concept and have some nice type and keep it core to the idea that you're designing for.
You know, and the core of this design definitely feels like this emptiness and this longing, right? Is that he is invisible because he does not have a partner. And that simple idea comes across so effectively, and it is so memorable because we're not used to seeing just a head floating and arms floating, but yet that use of positive negative space, right? The figure ground and the figure is cut out so we don't actually see the figure, but it's not like it's cut out. It's like what's in front of him is pure white and it's empty. I just love this. This is just my favorite.
I agree. It's really, really nice. And I do want to point out, like Chris Ike said in the chat, notice how these do all have a clear concept. Like Chris said it perfectly. Notice how none of these are just a bunch of character cutouts stacked on top of each other. You know, like they all have a very clear idea and they execute on that very well.
Yeah, that's one of the problems with posters nowadays is that legally it's like you have to have this person's face on it, you have to have this person's face. You know, it's nice when you have a little bit more freedom there.
Mm-hmm.
How about something like this?
This is wild. I went crazy with that liquefied tool, man. Wow.
This is a series of decisions that led to this poster, and I feel like take my reaction as a litmus test for what this is. If you want to go this crazy, it's gonna be divisive. That doesn't mean the design is bad, but also maybe be a little more selective with your choices for something like a competition, because something like this can create division in tastes.
That's a good point.
My favorite part of this is for sure the big bug eyes. I think that that's so much movement, and I really like that, and it's such a clear, like, that's what I'm drawn to over and over again. So,
But
it's certainly playing to the subject matter, I think.
Exactly, that's the subject matter. Exactly. You know, it's a psychedelic journey, right? So, I mean, it's like it's not reality. It's just it's a separate kind of reality for them, and like even the type kind of supports that kind of chaotic, kind of unrealistic, and it's very wild. It's very colorful, and so so different, but yet still very effective and very memorable. You know, that's kind of fun. You know, good graphic design. You know, if any of the students love graphic design, you could make a very successful poster, right? Because what was one of the things that we wanted to achieve, our aspirations, was memorable. Boom, this is memorable. How many times have you seen this logo? Everybody's been using it, right? And it tells us what the movie's about, right? The no symbol and ghosts. No ghosts, right? It's like, how obvious can you get? But it's a great way. You saw the previous one was all about illustration, and this one's all about graphic design. There is no right answer, and like Amanda was saying, use any medium. You don't have to do one thing or the other, right? Kind of explore. Show me the thing that you like to do. If you like graphic design, don't try and force yourself into being an illustrator. If you're an illustrator, don't try and force yourself into being a graphic designer. Show me the things that you like, that your strength, play to your strength. And it's interesting because this kind of idea, well, yeah, you can see that people have done a very similar approach, right? Nice big logo, right? Not much different, right? Right? At least it's memorable.
Well, and to really understand that memorability, I mean, there's many times now where you'll have seen people do these tests where they bring in a bunch of people from all sorts of different backgrounds and they say, draw the Domino's logo. And then they show how close each person got and those sorts of things. And when you do good graphic design, like the Ghostbusters logo, I feel like generally a good amount of people would probably be able to draw that by memory from like with their hand, or if they're like me or Amanda and don't necessarily want to learn how to draw, we'll use some shapes on the computer, which is totally fine too. But it's definitely something to look into for sure.
When was the Ghostbusters?
Well, and the Jurassic Park logo, particularly, it's not just for the sake of graphic design or for a graphic mark, but that typography, like if you just took that apart and changed it to a different word, it would still look like a zoo, right? Or it'd look like a theme park.
Yeah.
If you gathered a whole bunch of logos and designs and typography from theme parks and zoos, it would be very similar to that because it's conveying a message of it's a zoo or a theme park for dinosaurs. And that's the story. And what would that story be like?
Mm-hmm. There you
How
go.
fun. How about this one here?
Yeehaw.
You know?
This is yeehaw for me.
One word, yeehaw.
I will say this one has a little bit more detail, but notice how they contained it. Look how neat it is in there. And they organized it. They made it symmetrical, 3 people on each side, guy in the middle. It's got a good composition. They thought about the movement. They thought about the way that the type is all lonesome up there, but doesn't feel like too lonely. It doesn't feel too crowded. It's nice. It's nice.
Nice contrast, which is the design principle. Like your eye immediately goes to the type. It's because it's the brightest thing on the poster, and I think that's probably why it works so well.
And what kind of mood you get from this? I mean, it feels like it's kind of fun, right? People are smiling, but yet it feels like it has this, kind of nostalgia of the old time adventure. So even the way that it's drawn and the texture, everything just kind of evokes that kind of old adventure theme. So
Yeah.
when I look at this, I know what to expect, right? This is a great one to set out the mood.
I think that's a good point. They are playing on some motifs here with the texturing and the way that they illustrated stuff. It feels very olden illustration style, and that's paired with a little bit more fun, modern, bright type, which just together feels adventurous. And you're like, oh, there it is. It must be adventure. So true. It is exactly that.
Yeah. And this, you can see this one has, the representation of the star, right? So many of the other ones didn't have the kind of, movie star faces incorporated, but this one does it really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to 1927, almost 100-year-old poster.
This
So
one's
if anything,
nice.
you've got a real nice history lesson here. But look at just the graphic design on that.
Wow, graphic designers really fell off. This is great.
It is also, I think, one of the ones that's closest to our aspect ratio as well for the
Yes.
submissions for these. So this in particular could be an interesting reference for composition and how they managed to fit it. Like, you think of a cityscape, typically that's sprawling and pretty wide, but they managed to still fit in without a ton of detail, shapes that very clearly helped you understand, like, hey, this is a city, without needing to see the entire thing. And you can feel the vastness of it because they don't let you see the edge perfectly of every individual building that's there. They kind of let you believe that they just took a snapshot of the city and you get this sliver, but there's more beyond the edges of the poster, which I think is something nice. Sort of builds out a world. Doesn't feel like it's just stuck to the page.
You look at this is 1927, and look at that wild typography. In 1927, this was groundbreaking because nobody did this with the typography.
Mm-hmm.
So right now we look at it, it's like, oh, well, that's cool. I've seen it before. Well, 100 years ago, that's pretty impressive there.
Well, and even so, you'd expect it to be from like a heavy metal band or something,
Yeah. Exactly. And, we talk about color, right? A controlled use of color, kind of monochrome. That's really kind of nice, not overly exaggerated. But one of the things, can you see my cursor?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Like one of the things here, right? Metropolis is at the very top of the frame, But yet, look at these graphic vectors. It's like a big sign saying, look up here, look up here. And your eye can't help but look right up to the title. So using the elements in your frame to point viewers where to look, really important. And then the last one here, maybe a lot of you have seen this one, right? So
funny. This is the first time I'm seeing this poster in my life.
Same.
I've never seen it
Really?
before. I like
Yeah.
it a lot, though.
No, wow.
Look
I'm
at
learning.
that.
I'm learning, Ed.
They use the repetition of the shape to make it look like the pumpkin. And then that same
There you
shape is
go.
mirrored, and then it's got good angles on it. It does.
That's a veiny hand.
It's
What
a
was that?
veiny hand.
Very
veiny hand,
hand.
No escaping that.
Strong and angry. Yes.
You know, it kind of reminds me of those Animorph books, honestly.
That it does have a similar style.
It's got an
to
Animorph
that.
vibe to it.
Similar illustration style, I would say.
That's really, really good.
I love that. I love the movement of this piece and how that repetition really suggests that forward stabbing motion. And it's just simple, although it's brilliant. It's brilliant, but it's not overly complex. So I really love that. There's so many more, and I didn't. It's not like those are the only ones that are good. There's just so many more. Just using typography, layout, graphic design, photography, right? Amanda mentioned that it doesn't have to be illustration, doesn't have to be computer generated. Maybe it's handmade. That could be fun. Maybe your movement isn't done in a computer. Maybe it's stop motion. So it's not really about the technology. I want to know, how do you think? How do I communicate an idea? So for us, that's really the most important thing. Now, when we think about adding movement, so we'll go over this here. So now we're adding an element of motion. Those images that you saw didn't move, but adding that element of movement can be great, or it can be really confusing, right? So don't overpower the poster with movement. This is not an animation where everything's moving and you're trying to read, right? It's not that. The movement enhances poster. It does not take over the poster, right? So it supports the concept, right? So you don't have movement that doesn't mean anything or help tell the story. So choose a movement that helps communicate the idea, right? Maybe it enhances the mood and the tone. If things are very suddenly, jarring, that's going to give you a sense of an uncomfortable kind of attitude with this piece. Maybe it's a little unsettling. If it's very slow and if it's very smooth, then maybe that might be more of a calming sense. So how does the movement and the timing of the movement actually enhance the tone and mood? And then once again, just like with the static ones, memorable, right? Choose something that's unique about the poster that you would want to move, not just anything, right? But something that has some significance that helps the poster become memorable. Here's some examples of some actual posters that do have some animation in it. We've got a variety of things. The one on the left here, this has probably the most animation, but yet the foreground figure is always silhouetted. The foreground figure's dead center, so we're looking at that. High contrast. It's also the backdrop for helping the text to be readable. So the text isn't confused with a lot of things going around. Once again, to reemphasize Amanda's concept of giving the text room to breathe here. But, they could have animated anything. What did they animate? The tornado, right? The big thing there. That's really kind of fun. I love the Pulp Fiction animation. As you look at that, really subtle, but so well done, right? I mean, it looks like her stare is even more intense now, because if the smoke moves, she could probably have moved and looked and blinked too, but she doesn't. She has this dead-ass stare, right?
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. Yeah.
If you want more examples of those, cinemagraphs, I believe, are a good reference for that, where sometimes you just take a photo and one part is animating. It can really help pull attention.
A little bit of history. Back in 1985, or 86. This was my thesis at Ohio State. It was I called them motion stills,
That's cool.
and it was cinemagraphs way back in 1986. So
Head of the game, Ed.
I know that's what they say. And then just even the simple idea of this last poster. Josh was telling me about this poster because he used to read the comic books from this. What does this poster represent for you, Josh?
Oh, it's the battle of good versus bad, but it's an internal struggle with Spider-Man, who I'm going to become like a comic or reveal my comic book nerdery by talking too much about this, but it's Spider-Man gets an alien or a suit from aliens, and then slowly he realizes that the alien suit has a personality and it's driving him mad and evil. It's turning him evil. So he has to separate it, and it goes to another person, becomes Venom. But in this simple idea that there's two sides to the Spider-Man.
I love just the fading of one to another really communicates all of that. It's amazing, right? But once again, it all begins with their story. What do you want to say? What do you want to communicate? So that's really the most important thing, right? Now, the required title is My World and Welcome to It. So that has to be on the poster, and it has to be a primary element because with any kind of poster, you want people to know what the movie is, right? The title of the movie. So the way that you use that type, it can be anything. It could be handwritten type. It could be computer generated type. It could be 3D type. Could be anything. So we're wide open. But what is your world like? What do you want to say, right? I'm real excited to learn about each of the applicants, right? Because they're going to show me what their world is really like, and that's going to be really exciting for me.
I agree.
Exactly.
Okay, that's all I got there.
Get you a concept and then commit to it. I call it committing to the bit in poster design, and I think you ought to try it out.
Any of the questions that the viewers have?
If you're just tuning in, this is all about a wonderful, wonderful challenge collaboration EasyEase is doing with Ringling College of Art and Design. You can win $10,000 in scholarships, along with cash prizes and cool shirts and portfolio reviews with Ringling staff. You got to be in high school or within the age range to join. All the information you need, as well as the requirements, are all in the description, along with on the EasyEase site, which is linked in the description as well. So get in there, check it out. Get excited. It is very, very cool. Give us some questions, though, right now, and we'll answer them to the best of our dang ability. Those were posters, by the way, Ed.
I have a question that I know some people are probably thinking right now.
What is your question?
How long might this take? Say I'm a high school student. Say it. Like
you're a high school student.
Like no, I'm a high school student. See, Ed
I'm a high school student.
Anyway,
it's really hard.
I'm probably wondering how much time am I realistically going to have to put into making this poster? I've got classes, I've got sports, I'm hanging out with people after school, all those sorts of things. The truth is, you can put in. I know you do. So I'm just speaking to you, Noah. Put as much time in as you want. On EasyEase, we run all sorts of different challenges, and it's really up to you and your schedule. Some people take a couple hours on their submissions. Some take days, some take weeks. But ultimately, that doesn't necessarily affect our scoring of your piece. If you have a good concept, as you can see from some of those posters, some of those might have taken longer to create than others, but they're all still very, very good and interesting in their own ways. There is no time requirement to submit as long as you submit before the deadline, and the information for all of that is, again, link in the description to join the challenge there. But just know that there's no amount of time that you have to put in. Just commit to the bit, as Noah said, and make a fun poster.
That's exactly.
So, some of the things that I would like to ask Josh and Amanda. What kind of advice would you give someone who's starting this project? Encouragement, advice, those kinds.
Think about how much time you think it's going to take you, and then multiply that by 3, and that's how much time it'll actually take. I would say that's the biggest piece of advice that I have, just because I feel like the technical aspect of it, like Google's your friend. You can figure out how to make things and move things and design things, and you can always have feedback from your friends or like whoever you see as like a mentorship person in your life. But the one thing that you can't adjust is time. So just make sure you give yourself enough time to actually be able to pivot or learn or adjust if needed.
Great advice.
Great.
Josh.
I would say start with writing down a few words about what you want to convey. Write out a short, look up, I guess this is they're making it up, but maybe with the help of AI or something, come up with what's called a log line. That's a like 1 sentence to 2 sentence synopsis of the premise of the story without giving it away. Come up with a log line. What's your story about? What kind of mood and attitude do you want? And then what are some key elements that would be in it? If it's a mystery, then it needs to have shadows and maybe a silhouette. I would also say with your imagery, it's much more interesting to show a silhouette and a suggestion of a character or an idea of a character more than it is to actually show the face, and also last thing on typography, don't disregard it. It doesn't take a second backseat. It usually is smaller than the rest of the image, but it's like the little king. It gets a little, or little queen, or little prince of the kingdom, that it gets its own little spot and make sure the image gives it room and it's not an afterthought. And especially with this title, My World and Welcome to It, there's so many words there. Do not make it, I would suggest not making it all exactly the same size. Think of what word needs emphasis. It's this idea of, it's called hierarchy. It's putting emphasis on something, making something more important than the other. So maybe it's like we see it on the screen right now. My world is big and welcome to it is small. So maybe think of the different sizes. Maybe my is medium sized, world is large, and is very small. Welcome is medium and to it is small. Think of how you're going to arrange that.
Speaking of graphic design skills and typography, we got a question in chat. Imagine some students. You like that?
I knew you were also looking at that one.
Asking, imagine some students maybe have experience in After Effects, but may have less experience doing graphic design. Would you have any books or resources you'd recommend them? Question mark, question mark, question mark. He actually only put one, but I added those because I'm just so curious.
Yes, I would say for graphic design, listen, let's be real. I'm not going to suggest any books because no one has time to read books. Like if people read more books, then we wouldn't, I feel like we would be better off just in general. So I would suggest looking at Cal Lauren. They are a very talented graphic designer. They make a lot of content on YouTube. And they work a lot on musician merch. So they work on posters and merch. And I feel like that's sort of adjacent to movie posters because it's about like conveying a vibe, a feeling, and using typography. And they talk a lot about their process. So I would recommend leaning into the creator space because there's a lot of really cool YouTubers who talk about design and typography 24/7, and you can put it on while you do your homework and you don't have to read a book.
That's so true. In that same vein, they have a podcast with Elliot Ulm. Elliot is a cool guy who also does a lot of good typography. He's very talented. Check him out. Very funny YouTuber.
Yes.
Good job for speaking to the right generation, because I was just going to say something stupid like a book called Thinking with Type, or another book called Fundamentals of Typography. You want the second edition. So that's what
If you're into that, also do that.
If you're into that old-fashioned paper and binding and stuff.
I'll tell you, having your own library is really valuable. So collect some books. Collect books. It's easy to go through and look at them, and I encourage that. So get off the computer all the time. Get off your phone. Get some books. Be inspired by world around you rather than just looking on the computer. You need to do both, but don't neglect the world around you. So
Yeah, and that can extend outside of books as well. I get inspiration all the time from just going and taking a drive somewhere or watching a movie. Well, actually, that'd be really fitting for this, just watching a movie. So I don't know. There's lots of different ways you can get inspiration.
Yeah.
Exactly. And inspiration is fantastic. Well, one way I get inspiration is by picking a concept or an object or something very abstract and then forcing it into another concept that's very abstract. It makes my mind think in weird ways, like taking a camera and being like, how can I turn this camera into typography? And maybe I use the lens and I drill down on the way that it reflects in the lens, and then I use that to inspire the shape of a letter, like something crazy like that, and see where that takes me. It's a very fun, interesting new way to think. But all of this inspiration is relatively moot without practice. So if you really find stuff that you like, which I highly recommend doing, however you find good inspiration, however you find typography that you really love, check it out and then think about it. And then think about why you like it. Maybe you like the colors. Maybe you like how it all fits together real neatly. Maybe you like how it doesn't fit together. Maybe you like the wonky shapes it makes. And then try and recreate that in your own little way. And it will be your own little way if you just let yourself relax and make and just do. That is truly my best advice to get better at graphic design.
I think one thing that you mentioned, I think we haven't necessarily talked that much about, but just the emotional power that color can have. That's really important to think about your color scheme, right? Your color palette. What kind of mood does the blues and purples create versus the oranges and the yellows, right? So, you can really evoke a mood through color very, very quickly. So be careful on your color selections. That's why, like Amanda was saying, don't go crazy with all color. Think about a color palette.
Agreed.
I always start most of my projects with color palettes. What are you saying?
Yeah. And I think simplifying it, the advice that I gave for time is take however much time you think you have and multiply it by 3. I would also say works the same with your concept. Take your concept and simplify it 3 times down, right? And I think that is going to give you sort of a recipe for success, because you don't want to overcomplicate your concept and kind of your skill set, because we all have limitations in our creative careers, myself included, everyone in this call. And I would just say sometimes you can say a lot more by what you don't put into a poster rather than what you selectively try to put in. So that's my advice.
Oh, another thing, talking about that being selective and maybe not so obvious, I would encourage students to look at creating something that might include visual metaphors, right? And if you don't know what that is, that's your homework. Is to do some research on visual metaphors and maybe explore some of that, how an image might be able to represent something else that visually might be initially unrelated, but maybe there's some qualities of one thing that can translate to another object. So check out visual metaphors.
That's really helpful. And this may be helpful to some of you, but something that we do at the studio often is start with audio. You don't necessarily have to have audio for this by any means, but when we work, we'll pick a song that we think is associated with what we want to do. And I mean, if it's your world and welcome to it, maybe it's songs you listen to often that you find particularly inspiring. Listening to those with your eyes closed, sometimes we'll look a little crazy. We start having our eyes closed, kind of conducting this imaginary orchestra or whatever. You can kind of start to see some movements that might make sense with that audio that could inspire you, or colors and worlds and those sorts of things. So don't disregard your other senses as well. They could play into how you could express things visually.
That's great.
Let yourself run wild, baby.
Any more questions out there?
I'm not seeing any in the chat right now, but I know you had some good ones you were cooking up earlier. If you want to run through a couple of those.
Some of the things I would wonder if I was a student here, what software do we have to use? And it's once again, you don't have to use any particular software. Doesn't even have to be computer generated at all. Yeah. You can do the entire project possibly on your iPhone with some photography, maybe some stop motion. There's some stop motion apps even on the iPhone. So the technology is not what's going to make it successful or not. So, it's the simplicity of the idea and the clarity of the idea is really the most important thing, right? Is the story. We talked about the type of motion, don't try and do too much. The things that we're going to be looking for: good concept, strong design, and technical execution. So is the animation look good? Are your mats good? Are things lined up, right? So the technical execution also with animation is the third quality that we're going to be looking at. So concept, design, and animation. So, they don't necessarily have to be complex, just simple things, right? A lot of people would want to probably ask, like, well, what do you want to see in this? And I think for me, the thing that we want to see is what makes you happy, right? What makes you excited to do this? Why are you wanting to go into this field? So embrace that. Don't try and do something that you think someone else wants you to do. Do what you want to do, right? So we want to embrace that. In motion design,
Yes.
in motion design, you could be a photographer and still be in motion design. You could be an illustrator, work in motion design. You could love typography and still be motion design, right? You can bring all of those skill sets together for a successful career in motion design. So that's really important. So show me what you love doing. That's going to make your work much more successful.
Show us what you love. Have fun with it. I know you.
We do. Right as we said, there were no questions in the chat. 2 questions popped up. So if we just keep saying that, I feel like we're just going to have a boatload of questions coming. What, that is their name, what says, question, is this for Americans only?
No, it is not.
Survey says no.
No.
It's
perfect. Easy answer that one. Yep, that's right. And then Lee Dahlman says, are there written statements attached to the work? And to that, I would say it's not required. Ed, correct me if I'm wrong. It's not required. But if you'd like, what some people do on EasyEase is when they submit, you can't put like a caption in there because we kind of want the work to speak for itself. But you could put a comment next to the work as well. So if you wanted to give some sort of description or background or something like that, that's fine to put there. But your poster should also be able to communicate on its own. So I wouldn't rely on your written statement to back up all of your design, because that might not necessarily exist. Were it a poster in a movie theater or something, they probably wouldn't just put a giant description underneath that. So while you're in the hallway. We've got another one from Lucia Alonso Eras, who says, I have a question. Does the poster have to be in English, or can the participants use any language they want? Maybe their native language.
That's such a good question.
I'd love to see it in different languages. Yeah. Whatever's, once again, it's your world.
That's right. It's your boat.
Whatever language your world is in.
There you go.
That's cool.
That is exciting. A good question.
We already have somebody signed up for the challenge from Brazil. So there's already international competition going on.
So get in there. Again, there's only 100 slots, so you got good odds. You got great odds, dare I say.
No. That is amazing, isn't it? 1 of 100. That's great. And, in our department at Ringling, we have quite a very large number of international students. So we definitely embrace that because it makes the work much more interesting.
It does. Noah and I had this dream for a long time of having different branches of the studio that could essentially like share local culture with all the different branches to be able to make interesting design from like localized influences wherever those different branches are and spread that around. So I find that very interesting.
And Amanda's thesis, can you tell us a little bit about your thesis, Amanda?
Yeah, so my thesis was I made a short film all in Spanish because that's my native language. And I feel like that question I said it's so good is because like a lot of the design world does run in English, but I feel like this is a great opportunity to sort of put your own cultural touches, like really interpret the brief to what it means to you. Don't try to, fit into a box. Like I'm gonna speak for Ed on this, but I'm gonna say we want to see your perspective. We want to see your point of view. Don't try to make it into something generic. Try to really hone in on your own take on that. And that's sort of what I did for my last project, which is so sad, but I think it packed a punch.
It seems like you had a very good time studying there. Do you want to just give a quick rundown on how it was?
Yeah, and I say this when everyone asks me about my time at Ringling. For me, what made it so special was 100% the faculty. The faculty I owe my career to, and I don't think I've had better mentors since then. I think the most feedback, the most resources I got were as my time as a student. And I feel like if you really want to go somewhere where the faculty invests in you, then this is the place for that.
I don't know where you're going to get a better endorsement.
I don't either. That's awesome.
That sounds like a place I would have loved to go.
We have a really strong community, because there's a lot to know in motion design. There's too much to know, really, but you build this relationship with your classmates that very easily turn into your coworkers, and you have to kind of rely on one another and support each other. And I think the sense of community within our major is really one of our biggest strengths, because we have a very, very strong alumni community as well. And so students help other students get jobs and recommendations, and so it's really great. It's really great. So
Yeah, don't sleep on the opportunity to get a scholarship for the best motion design program out there.
And don't forget the shirt
And
that Josh is designing.
Josh, I'm so excited to see this shirt. I straight up am. That's going to be exciting.
Is the shirt for the winner?
All the winners.
Top 5.
Top 5.
Oh, wow. Do we get a shirt?
Are you submitting?
Yeah, are you hopping in?
I don't remember. Are you eligible?
I think we're going to have to print more than 5, so
You might
maybe.
have to.
We'll get the tests. We'll get the test shirts.
There you go.
Yeah.
Austin and I will probably be doing our own little take on the challenge itself in a couple days / next week. Not that we can enter, but we can sure wish we can, and we can sure design for it anyway. So tune in for that if you're feeling a little hesitant to enter. We got you.
Yeah. So if y'all want to see how people might design and animate these things, Noah and I will be doing that on stream as just a sort of experience for y'all to see what it might be like. And also, I just will say, if you're worried about not winning, though, to be fair, you have a really good chance as 1 in 100 to win. So I would join. If not anything else, like the scholarship, any of these other things, you will have learned a lot simply by participating in this challenge, and you'll have grown as an artist and as a creative just by going through this process and getting to see all of the other work that the other participants will have made by submitting their work to EasyEase as well. You'll be able to see the feedback that we gave to the pieces, and it'll just be a lot of good learning opportunities. So don't stress too much about the win, though. Do try hard, but there's lots to gain outside of those prizes as well.
Not to mention valuable feedback from Ringling themselves.
That's right.
That is gorgeous and amazing. And with that, we're running up on 70 minutes here. I think we're good. I think we're happy as little clams. I think we said all we needed to say at this current moment. We'll do some more streams in the future talking about it. I'm getting people excited. But thank you guys so much. Are there any last things anyone wants to say?
Well, I want to thank both you guys for working with us to do this. It's great. Your reach into the graphic motion design community is really amazing, and we're just very honored to partner with you on this. So thank you very much.
Well, likewise, y'all have an amazing program, and we're excited to see people submit and potentially get to go to Ringling and experience all the good that Amanda experienced as well.
There you
Pass
go.
it on.
And thank you, Josh, and thank you, Amanda, for participating today. I really appreciate that.
Of course. Happy New Year.
Yeah, thank you.
So if you guys have any more questions, feel free to email us or get in touch with any of us. Our contact should be pretty easy to find. I'll put some contact in the description as well. Again, don't sleep on this opportunity. If you're in the age range, you're in high school, you know, there's so much to win. There's so much value in just participating. Get in there. Everything's in the description. Thank you so much, Ed. Thank you so much, Josh. Thank you so much, Amanda. Thank you just a little bit, Austin. And thank you so much
Yeah, let's go.
for being here. Thank you so much, Austin. And for chatting about this. This is seriously the biggest challenge we've had so far in terms of how much we're able to give away and how much value we're able to provide. I'm so excited to see all of your submissions. It is EasyEase and Ringling signing off for a bit. I'll see you guys so very soon.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
And we wait for the stream to catch up for about 10 seconds. And then we're done. We're off.
And we're off.